Hey everyone, Tony here, JP Wisco back with another video for you. I realize it's been a while since I've done a video, few weeks, but I'm back, and today I want to change gears a little bit and share with you guys something else that I'm into besides sports cards, and that is retro games, particularly retro fighting games. I love fighting games, I always have. Even since I was a kid, and I particularly like 16-bit and Dreamcast fighting games. So I just want to share some of those with you today. Some of my collection. I got a new one today, so kind of because of that, I thought, why don't I share it on the channel? So the one that I picked up today is called Samurai Spirits, and this is a fairly obscure fighting game for the Super Nintendo. This is a really clean copy. This box is immaculate. This did get a Western release. It is called Samurai Showdown in the West. I'm not sure why they changed the name. But everything else is the same. This is pretty cool. This is a cool game because it's like, basically, it's kind of your standard 16-bit fighting game. But one difference, of course, being Samurai Spirits, the fighters use swords. So it's a little bit like kind of a precursor to Soul Calibur, kind of. So this is my pickup for today, and just wanted to share that with you. Oh, a little bonus. You see Takara down there. Yes, that is the same company that you might recognize from one of Ichiro's Japanese rookie cards, the toy company. I think this was just the publisher. I don't know the developer, but anyway. So Samurai Spirits. So let me show you some of my other Super Nintendo fighting games, and of course these are all Japanese editions. I particularly like, I'm particularly interested in Japanese exclusive games, so games that did not get a Western release. And I have a Japanese Super Nintendo, of course, called the Super Famicom here. So let's just get into it. This is a cool one. This is Dragon Ball Z Hyper Dimension. When I was a kid, I loved Dragon Ball Z. I still like Dragon Ball Z, maybe not quite as much. I tend to prefer boxed games complete with the manual and everything. I'd like to get a boxed copy of this game eventually. Maybe if I can find one for a fairly affordable price. But who knows? I've got the cartridge, so this is probably the best 16-bit Dragon Ball fighting game. They made several. Usually they tied in with the timeline of the show, so the fighting game, you were kind of progressing through the series in game form. However, this is more just like a standalone that kind of exists out of any sort of sequential order that the series follows. It just kind of has a bunch of the major characters throughout the series run. It's really, this was, of course, a Japanese exclusive. This was not released in the West. But it's a really, pretty good fighting game. It's real smooth. The animations are really slick. I think the, sort of the color palette, or kind of, it's a little drab, but it is a very smooth-looking game, and a pretty good-looking game. Alrighty, so this is, of course, not at all a Japan exclusive. Doesn't really need any introduction. Here's my boxed copy of Street Fighter II Turbo. Obviously, I love Street Fighter, one of my favorite series of all time. I'll let you look at the back there. So, of course, Street Fighter II if you know, and if you're into video games at all, you probably know that Street Fighter 2 had like a gorillion different versions. And to complicate things even more, the names were different depending on whether it was the original arcade release or a port, like for the Super Nintendo or whatever. I actually have two. Let me dig the other one out. I've actually got two Street Fighter 2 versions for Super Nintendo. And this, the difference is, well, I got the boxed copies. Turbo is, without getting into boring details, a lot of players consider Turbo to be, gameplay-wise, to be like the best version of Street Fighter 2. There's also this one, which is called the New Challengers. It's another version of Street Fighter 2. It has extra characters and extra backgrounds, but basically the big thing players didn't like about this was that they slowed the gameplay down. So then Capcom released another version where they sped it back up, like as a mea culpa. So anyway, Street Fighter, very easy to acquire, obviously. Street Fighter, these are not rare. I love the box art on this one, though. So, yeah. Alright, so now a couple more Japan-exclusive Super Nintendo fighting games. These two I'm really happy to have. The first one I'll do is... this is Godzilla. So Godzilla, the Great Monster Battle. And this is pretty much what you'd expect. It's a Godzilla fighting game where you can take the role of Godzilla, Mechagodzilla, King Ghidorah, Mothra, and others. The best part about this game is that it doesn't suck. Like, you'd expect kind of it's a franchise kind of tie-in. You know, I think the developers of this game could have very easily half-assed the game just because you could coattail on strong licensing like Godzilla, right? But they really made a pretty solid game. I mean, it's by no means an innovative or... you know, it's a pretty standard 2D fighting game. But yeah, I mean, it looks great. It's a great looking game. And it also, there's, you know, you're playing as these kaiju, right? These big monsters, you know, monsters, and they're very big characters, but it's really fast, and the gameplay is really smooth, too. So there's not a lot of, like, chug or... kind of that you might expect. So yeah, this is of course Japan only release. Pretty happy to have this one, of course. And let's see here. And I'll show you guys another Japan exclusive. This is Gundam Wing Endless Duel. So... of course, did not get a Western release. This is probably among the rarer, more valuable, fully boxed SNES games I have. It's also a great game. And I would say it's no joke, it's one of the best looking games on the Super Nintendo you're ever going to find. So, yeah... pretty awesome. It's actually, as a lot of games were back in this day, right? Like, this game is kind of famous for being brutally difficult. Like, the campaign mode, like the single-player mode, when you get to those final three characters, like, that you have to fight in the single-player mode, it's brutally difficult. But pretty fun game, especially... 2-player. Okay, so to finish things off, I will show you guys some of my Dreamcast fighting games. So obviously these aren't quite as old or probably not as neat or valuable, right? Because they don't come in the cardboard boxes and they're a little bit newer anyway, right? Because they're Dreamcast. But Dreamcast is one of my favorite. It might be over. Well, Super Nintendo is probably my favorite video game console ever. But Dreamcast is up there. I think for fighting games, Dreamcast is kind of the apex of consoles. So many good fighting games on the Dreamcast, many of which I have. So I want to show you guys first maybe my favorite Dreamcast fighting game. And this is the Japanese version. This game did get a Western release. This is Justice Gakuen, which means Justice School. Well, it's actually Moero Justice Gakuen, which is like, get fired up, Justice School. Yeah, some of the Japanese titles are kind of clunky if you translate them. So this is maybe it's not, it's another Capcom game like Street Fighter, but it's not really super well known. I wouldn't expect a lot of gamers now that are maybe from one that are like younger to really know about this. This is the second game in the series. I believe they made only 2 games of this. And like I said, yeah, this did get a Western release. And it is called Rival Schools Project Justice, I think, in the West. But yeah, this is pretty cool because you can like it uses this kind of pseudo tag team thing where certain moves you can like call in another character on the roster to like help you out and do like cool combined moves and stuff. So pretty cool game, and you can get this in the West too on Dreamcast. So highly recommended. Street Fighter 03. This is an awesome cover. I think this was called something else in the West, but of course, like every Street Fighter game, it was released in the West. But I forgot what it's called. It was called something else. So yeah, that's great. Gotta love me some Street Fighter. And I also got Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Classic. I loved playing this in the arcade. And one of the more sort of bizarre and fun fighting games, Guilty Gear. The Guilty Gear series is pretty cool. So anyway, hope I didn't bore you with this change of pace. I will be sharing more cards with you coming up, so stay tuned for that. But I hope you enjoyed, learning about one of my other collecting hobbies. So, as always, guys, thanks for watching. Peace.